presented by the League of Women Voters of Winnebago County and Oshkosh Media. This event is being simulcast on Oshkosh Radio FM 101.9. Recordings can be found on the Oshkosh Media YouTube page, and replay schedules for government TV can be found on oshkoshmedia.org. I'm Margie Davey, President of the League of Women Voters and tonight's moderator. The League of Women Voters seeks to inform citizens about major public policy issues and about candidates seeking office. We never support nor oppose any political party or candidate. And despite our name, LWV does welcome everyone. You can learn how to join at lwvwinnebago.org or by asking any of our members here tonight. And we do have several members who will be taking questions from you tonight, too, if you would like. In addition to organizing forums like this, the local league also hosts monthly presentations that are timely and informative. Some of the speakers we had in 2023 spoke on climate adaptation, the American Rescue Plan Act in Winnebago County, Medicare and Medicaid, local water quality, education issues, and more. The league holds voter outreach events to help people register to vote, request an absentee ballot, and find their polling place. We also provide information on current issues. We regularly partner with other nonpartisan organizations on events to expand our local reach and meet with school district and government officials to share ideas on how we can best serve our communities. How can you learn about what we're doing? The League publishes a monthly newsletter and has an active Facebook page. For more information about the League of Women Voters, you can access our website at lwvwinnebago.org. Early in-person absentee voting, got that? Early in-person absentee voting allows voters who cannot reach their polling place on election day to vote beforehand. In the city of Oshkosh, early voting for the spring primary will take place at 19 East Irving Avenue. This is a change from the present location or the previous location at City Hall. You may vote early on Tuesday, February 6th through Friday, February 9th, and Monday, February 12th through Thursday, February 15th, from 8 a.m. to 4:30 p.m. at the Irving Street location. On Friday, February 16th, and the last day to vote early, from 8 a.m. to 5 p.m. In other municipalities, check with your city or town clerk for early voting availability. This is, of course, a county-wide race. The League of Women Voters facilitates vote411.org. It's an online candidate and voter resource where all candidates for all races are invited to answer questions. When you, the voter, put in your address, you learn which races will be on your ballot, which candidates are running for each office, and candidate responses to the questions. If there are no responses, that means the candidate chose not to participate. We encourage you to then reach out directly. Candidates are applying for a job, and every voter should know how they plan to do that job. We call this being an informed voter. You can also visit myvote.wi.gov to check your voting status and for more information. Please turn off your electronic devices. No audience recording is allowed. Tonight, 3 candidates are competing for Circuit Court Judge for Branch 1, Winnebago County, for a 6-year term. They are Lakeisha Hayes, Eric Haywood, and Michael Rust. The incumbent, Teresa Basilier, is not seeking re-election. Joining me on the panel tonight is Karen Schneider, publisher of the Oshkosh Herald and the Neenah News. Public questions were solicited in advance. Those of you in the audience may also submit questions on the cards provided. Just wave them in the air and a league member will come and get them. Questions must be for all candidates and may not single out a single candidate. Questions may be edited for brevity and clarity, and while we hope to cover as many as we can, we just might not have time for them all. Candidates, our timekeeper, do you want to wave? We'll give you cues. Please heed the stop sign so I don't have to cut you off, and I will. Concise answers will allow time for more questions. This is not a debate. You will each be given the same amount of time for each question. And with that, we will begin with the opening statements. You now have boy, that'd get you. You now have a half an hour. No. You now have 2 minutes to summarize your background, qualifications, and your motivation for seeking election as Branch 1 judge. Why should voters choose you over your opponents? And we will begin with you, Lakeisha.
Thank you. Good evening. I'm Lakeisha Hayes. I'm a mother to 2 right here in the Oshkosh Area School District. I am a litigation attorney practicing currently civil rights litigation and employment law, both in state and federal court. My passion for the law began as a child. It increased and grew dramatically once I attended UW Oshkosh, pursuing my finance and legal studies degree. My career in the courtroom began even before law school when I began a job as a county clerk right here in the Winnebago County Courthouse, worked my way up to a judicial assistant for one of the judges, and that is when I then decided that it was time for me to move on to law school and pursue that dream. After leaving law school, graduating from Marquette Law, I began practicing right here in the Fox Valley, where I raised my family. Started out with the Public Defender's Office, serving the underserved, the indigent, and the marginalized. Became an advocate and continue to be an advocate in that realm. I was previously the judge for Winnebago County Circuit Court Branch 4, and my legal career has been expansive. I have practiced every single area of the law that a judge here in Winnebago County would preside over, and that is crucial. I'm the only candidate who has the previous experience as a judge. Knowing that my career has brought me into the courtroom being an advocate, it has brought me across, complex legal issues, which I think are important. I'm ethical, I'm committed to public service, and I'm committed to our community. My qualifications and the need for our county to have diversity on the bench is the reason why I'm running.
Thank you. Eric?
Hello, I'm Eric Haywood. Thank you to League for hosting this forum. I'm running for judge in Branch 1 of Winnebago County with the endorsement of current Branch 1 judge, the Honorable Teresa Basilier. I grew up here in Winnebago County. My wife and I are raising our 2 kids here. Branch 1 has a special place for my family. My brother became my legal sibling at his adoption ceremony there. As a kid in Branch 1, I saw the honor a judge has to build families. Before law school, I worked as an AmeriCorps with Habitat for Humanity and then graduated from the University of Wisconsin Law School. My 13-year career as an attorney has been dedicated to public service. First as a prosecutor, I work with law enforcement and victims for justice. Then as a public defender, I represented individuals, regardless of wealth, to be treated fairly with dignity when their liberty was at stake. I have experience as an attorney handling over 3,000 cases, including hundreds of court trials, more than 20 jury trials. I developed programs for court and was selected to train attorneys in over 50 legal presentations. As Judicial Court Commissioner, which is a role where I was chosen by the judges to make decisions in several cases, I preside over criminal, juvenile, child welfare, mental health, guardianship, probate, traffic forfeiture, eviction, and small claims cases. I travel to the school for juvenile cases, serve on the board of the Resolution Center, and involved with treatment programs at the court. I'm committed to the rule of law, to ensuring liberty and equal access to justice. I'm running for judge in Branch 1 to keep Winnebago County a safe and stable place to raise a family.
Thank you. Michael?
Good evening, everyone. My name is Michael Rust, and I am running for Winnebago County Circuit Court Branch 1 because my entire legal career is about resolving conflict. When I became an attorney, I initially started in the world of litigation, and I saw the potential harm that litigation can do to families, the potential harm that litigation can do to children, and the potential harm that litigation can do to the community as a whole. And so I focused my career on conflict resolution. For the last 12 years, I have been a professional neutral. And why is that important? Because judges have to be neutral. The rule of law has to be based on judicial neutrality and a lack of bias on the court. The more bias that we see on the court, the more that we're going to see people try to take matters into their own hands instead of utilizing the third branch of our government in the way that it was intended. I ran the Resolution Center for 9.5 years. I mediated over 2,000 disputes, everything from a $17 landscaping bill to multi-million-dollar business dissolutions. I mediated the aftermath of a murder-suicide. I have dealt with every area of law that there is. Now, did I do it on the bench? I did not. I resolved it in ways that didn't require tearing families apart. And when I had the opportunity to change my career and I took the job as Circuit Court Commissioner, selected by the judges to do so, I now hold trials on a daily basis and continue my neutrality and my lack of bias from the bench.
Thank you. Okay. Well, now we'll start asking some public policy questions. Some were submitted in advance, and we will start with those. Tonight, if any of you would like to submit a question, please be sure that you give it to one of the league members that will be there to take them from you. You will each have a minute and a half, 90 seconds, for each question that we ask. And we will start now with, this first question will go to you first, Eric, because we're going to kind of like rotate, you know. This question will be for all of you. How will your specific experience as an attorney or judge enhance your ability to serve as a circuit court judge? Go ahead.
Thank you for that question. I bring broad experience from different sides as a prosecutor, as a defense attorney, in a judicial role now in several types of cases to be able to see all cases, the important cases, the community safety cases from different angles to make sure that I'm treating parties fairly, considering the individual facts, applying the law, and making sure I understand the cases from all angles and making the decisions I would as a judge.
Okay, Michael?
My background as a neutral has trained me on how to listen to people. One of the biggest concerns that I hear in the community is that people do not feel heard when they come to court. They do not feel like their issues are actually being considered by the court before a ruling is made. Having the ability to show people that I have listened thoroughly, understand everything that they want to tell me, and the law does not agree with them, having that ability to describe that to people in a way that they can understand and respect, I have had the opportunity to do that. And I have had the opportunity to rule against parties who then thank me for how much I listen to what they've said. Because the rule of law needs to be number one, and that will be what I bring forward as judge.
Thank you. Lakeisha?
As a litigation attorney, I have practiced in over 10 counties. I've appeared in front of over 20 judges. What I did was take from that experience, being in different counties in front of different judges, some pros and some cons, and I've applied those when I was on the bench. I have over 15 years of working with diverse communities, and that experience has been not only as an attorney, but as a circuit court judge. One thing that I have always been applauded for is my thoroughness on the bench. When I make a decision, it will be thorough and it will be based on the law. I have never been overturned on the bench. I have that experience. I bring that same experience. And since the time that I have not been on the bench but been practicing in federal court, I have even greater experience when it comes to navigating even more complex issues. So I have done civil litigation. I've done family law. I've done education law, municipal law. Even as I serve today as a council member for the City of Oshkosh Common Council, that is experience that I'm taking to the bench. Not only do I have the legislative portion, knowledge, and experience, I come as a student of the law who is forever becoming an expert.
Thank you. Karen, do you have a question?
Sure, I do.
You would probably direct it to Michael.
Okay. All right, so can you tell us how the duties of court commissioners and family court commissioners dovetail with circuit court judges? And along that, also share how your current role or employment segues you for that same role.
So the role of a court commissioner is, in some ways, it can be intake, where the cases are just beginning and therefore they go in front of a court commissioner before they go in front of a judge. However, they can also be as essentially a form of dispute resolution that allows for a full and complete trial in front of a court commissioner, and that the court commissioner makes a ruling just like a judge does. My courtroom, I hold trials every day, and I am hearing witnesses, I'm taking testimony, I am ruling on objections, and I am making decisions based off of the law. Yes, those are able to be appealed to a circuit court judge, and so I understand the process and what it takes to make those rulings, and I also understand what it looks like from the judicial side on when the case comes to them, if there is a de novo review of my decision.
Thank you. Lakeisha?
As for the role of a court commissioner and how my current role would prepare me for the role as a judge. So my previous experience as a judge was not only to preside over every single case that came through Winnebago County Court of General Jurisdiction, but also oversee the court commissioners. Court commissioners typically handle the preliminary matters before you get into the substance of the actual case. There's just simply decisions that court commissioners cannot make. What my experience does is having to navigate the law every single day of my career is huge. You have to know the law in order to be able to preside over these cases. In practice, I'm doing this every single day in my practice as an attorney. I'm navigating the law. Not only does that make me prepared for this role, but it is absolutely difficult to come into the role as an attorney, as a court commissioner, but more importantly as a judge without that practice experience. You want someone who knows the law, can apply the law, who knows the pros and the cons, who knows the arguments against and for things. And that is what I have. I have all of that experience, and I come to the bench with that experience.
Thank you. Eric?
Thank you. As Judicial Court Commissioner, I listed the cases I preside over. They make up over 70% of the cases that are handled by the judge. I work to cover for family cases and other civil cases to continue to educate myself on those other areas of law. I'm the starting point for cases. I often make the first safety decisions in important cases about liberty and justice, safety decisions in felony, mental health, child welfare cases. Some cases resolve in front of me. I have evidentiary hearings on cases, and I work to make sure I'm following the law. So when I transfer the cases to the judges, they're properly set up to be then handled by the judge.
Thank you.
Okay, my turn again. This question will go to Lakeisha first. How would other attorneys describe your judicial temperament?
One thing that I always made sure I did while I was on the bench is ask for feedback, because I don't think that judges are untouchable. And I think that it is easy to get lost in believing that you know it all and that you did the right thing every single time. So in my pursuit of feedback from the attorneys that have appeared in front of me is similar to what has been stated before. I listen. I treat every single person that comes before me with dignity and with respect. And at every single step of the way, I make sure that I remain impartial. Being thorough is not only being thorough and prepared for your cases. I'm always the most prepared. I make sure I'm the most prepared in every single setting. But it is also about making sure that your decisions are thorough. I think that people have a better understanding on why you ruled the way you did when you lay it out completely for them, and you take the necessary time to not only explain the law, and then you apply it and give the reasonings behind that.
Thank you. Eric?
Thank you. I appreciate that other attorneys and community members have given me feedback on the judicial decisions that I've made as commissioner, the judicial process I take in my courtroom. I work hard to be prepared and knowledgeable, to know the current law, know the precedent, make sure I'm applying that to the cases that come before me, be calm, patient and fair for the parties appearing in front of me, giving each one the chance to have the opportunity to present their facts to me for my decision. And I appreciate the feedback I've received from others, being pragmatic and thorough in my decisions, making sure I'm following the current law and precedent and applying them to the individual facts that I let the parties develop during the case.
Thank you. Michael?
Thank you. The first word that a lot of people use to describe me is calm. And I think that that is probably one of the biggest characteristics that I will bring into this role as judge is in my judicial temperament, I am a calming force. I have had people get very upset in the courtroom. I've had people get boisterous, loud. I've had people call security because of people who are in my courtroom. Never has someone been taken out of my courtroom by security. I have been able to talk to them to calm the situation, to be able to talk through the situation with the parties. And then that approach has led me to make good decisions that even the most angry participants and litigants in front of me understand my decisions. And so my calm and thorough approach, my preparation before the hearings in order to understand the law, be ready for the arguments of counsel or of the unrepresented parties, allow me to be thoroughly prepared to make those rulings and address the issues as they come up. And so when it comes to my temperament, I believe that my temperament is ideally suited for the role of Winnebago County Circuit Court Branch 1.
Thank you. Karen?
Okay, we're going to start with you, Eric. How much discretion does a circuit court judge have in applying the law after a jury has ruled?
The jury role is an important constitutional connection between the community and our courts. That fact-finding role is delegated to the jury when we bring people in our community to come in, spend their time to listen to a case, resolve a dispute, decide the facts of a dispute. It's very important that I, as a judge, would honor the facts that they decided. It's the role of the jury to decide the facts, not the role of the jury to decide the law or change the law. So it'd still be my job as judge to know the law and apply the current law to the facts decided by the jury.
Thank you. Michael?
The United States Constitution gives everyone the constitutional right to a trial by jury when there's more than $7 at issue. And the reality of that basic tenet of our society is so important to the role of the judicial system that a judge has to be very careful about utilizing any discretion they are going to use in a jury trial situation. As Eric stated, jurors are there to be the ultimate trier of fact. The judge then does apply the facts to the law, and so there is some discretion with regards to that, but it is absolutely imperative that the law is followed and that the discretion that a judge utilizes after a jury trial be very limited.
Thank you. Lakeisha?
Thank you. Judges have very little discretion to overturn a juror's verdict. The jurors are the trier of fact, and barring any lack of application of the facts to support that verdict, the judges should not overturn it. And that is what case law has told us. That's what our Supreme Court rules and ethics have told us. It is very little discretion because we have to stand by our judicial system, our justice system, of jurors being those triers. I think that if we were to allow any more discretion than what has been allotted to us, we would lose the integrity of our judicial system.
Thank you.
Okay, next question. We'll start with you, Mike. If you, as judge, observed a party in your courtroom being poorly represented by an unprepared or ineffective lawyer, how would you handle that situation?
There is a constitutional right to having the effective assistance of counsel in a criminal matter. In a civil matter, it isn't a constitutional right to, but you can have an attorney represent you in court. And in either scenario, if there was a unprepared attorney, I think the first step would be to pull the attorney aside. I'd likely pull the attorney back into chambers and have a conversation with them with regards to the ongoing, not about this case, but about their preparation in general. Having a conversation with them that was about that particular case outside of the presence of the other party would be unethical. And so it would be a generalized conversation about the attorney's, whether or not the attorney is doing okay. It might be something that they just need an adjournment because they have a sick kid at home, or they have something else going on in their lives, and that there needs to be some other kindness and humanity expressed to the attorney that it then allows them to be a more effective advocate for their client. If it's a situation where the attorney cannot be effective, I would encourage them to withdraw, and I think that would be an important component. I have served on the Office of Lawyer Regulations Board of Administrative Oversight for the last several years. I was appointed by the Wisconsin Supreme Court to that role, and I think that is a very consistent answer with the rules of ethics for lawyers.
Okay, thank you. Lakeisha?
Thank you. I think first, of course, there's communication. You want to communicate with the attorney, but making sure that you don't create a conflict of any kind. However, what I think it's important to point out is that we as attorneys have ethical obligations to report when we know or believe that an attorney has, in some way, because of their performance, jeopardized their client's case. And that is what is not stressed enough. We have to speak up, stand up, speak out. And we're obligated to report poor performance, unethical behavior, and harm that is done to a person's rights and to that person's case, whether it's civil, family, criminal. We have an obligation to report that. And one thing that I'm not afraid to do is to do that. You stand up and you speak out. There isn't enough of that. And if you're going to take on the role as a judge, which is a very difficult role, it's a role that we in our community look up to and see as leaders. And if you're not going to be a leader at every step of the way, every step, when someone's watching and when they're not, then you shouldn't be on the bench. But one thing we have to get used to is reporting the bad behavior.
Thank you. Eric?
In my different roles, prosecuting, defending, presiding over cases, I recognize there's a lot of different reasons that attorneys and their clients may not have had enough time to prepare. I think it's important for trust and integrity in our system to allow attorneys and their clients enough time to communicate and prepare, and for them to develop their own strategy, not for me to insert my strategy in their decision. I recognize there's different reasons that lack of communication or preparation may have come up, different ways that I handle that as a court commissioner now. I may just take a short pause during the hearing and say, I'll let you and your attorney go have a few minutes to talk. We'll call the next case and then come back to yours. So I make sure you understand the decisions you're making, especially if it's important liberty decisions in a criminal case. If it's a more complicated issue, I may simply reschedule the case to say, I want you and your attorney to have enough time to discuss the facts, the law, and prepare your strategy. And being mindful I can't insert my own strategy, I still need to consider if the attorney is prepared enough and effective. I've met with attorneys several times from different agencies to talk about how they're handling cases, invited attorneys to come meet with me to talk about strategies or ways they can handle cases and be prepared. Obviously, if the performance remained concerning, I have an obligation. I've talked with attorney supervisors about if they're prepared for that type of case, if they need more training for a case, and in exceptional circumstances, I would report ethical violations to the Office of Lawyer Regulation.
Okay, thank you. Here.
For this question, we're starting with Lakeisha. Under what circumstances would you recuse yourself from a case?
I've recused myself from cases in which I have personally known any of the parties that are involved, but I know that the Supreme Court rules and ethics require me to recuse myself if I have any interest in the outcome of the case, if I have a personal relationship with any of the parties that are involved, but also, and one that we often forget, is we would recuse ourselves to avoid any appearance of a conflict. And so although I have trust in my ability to remain impartial, I have, in the past, recused myself so that a case is not, or the outcome of a case is not affected by the appearance of there being a conflict.
Thank you, Eric.
Thank you. Transparency is extremely important in the public's trust in the court system, that they know everyone has a fair shot in the court system. No cases are prejudged because a judicial figure has some feelings for or against a particular party. The Wisconsin statutes and Supreme Court rules for judges list specific reasons when judges have to withdraw because of an actual conflict, but it's important for judges to be mindful of appearance of conflict or bias, or where there be a reason for the public to doubt if a judge was able to be fair and impartial in decision. Growing up here and handling 3,000 cases here, there's a number of people that I know, or at least know of, and as part of transparency, I disclose to all of the parties what sort of interaction or limited knowledge I have of the person, so they can decide whether that is a conflict that they would like me to not preside over the case, or they trust my ability to remain impartial, that even though I know something about a case because I went to high school with someone 20 years ago, I'm still able to remain impartial and transparent, that there's no longer any appearance of bias there.
Thank you.
Michael?
The Supreme Court rules and statutes in Wisconsin do describe when a judge must recuse themselves, and it is a two-part test. It requires recusal if there's an actual conflict or if there's an appearance of conflict. And the conflicts can come because the judge or judicial officer has an interest in the outcome of some kind, or because they have a connection with the party. And I believe that disclosure is the first step, that the transparent disclosure of any connections with one of the parties, one of the counsel, or any even tangential interest in the outcome is the first step. I think that having a full disclosure of that information to the parties and their attorneys allows for a conversation, and ultimately it is the judge's decision on whether or not to recuse, and I think that it is important that that be utilized when there is either an actual or an apparent conflict.
Thank you. Okay, back to me, and we'll start with Eric this time. The general public knows little about the day-to-day operation of the court system. Can you explain what kind of cases the circuit court handles? And would you like to see more outreach to inform the community about how the court works?
Each of our branches, so branch 1 is a court of general jurisdiction, meaning it handles all types of cases under Wisconsin law. It's important for the public to be aware and trust in the transparency of what happens in the court process. My courtroom doors as a court commissioner are always open, and they're traveling as well. I go to the schools twice a month to handle juvenile cases there, talk with the students at schools. I have students come to my courtroom on field trips. As commissioner, would welcome that. As judges, my courtroom's always open for people to observe. Frequently the news comes as well, so the public can see some of my thought process with bond hearings in serious cases. I think with the number of cases that a judge or the branch 1 judge would handle, the number of decisions made, it's important that my doors would remain open to the public, and I remain open to talking to them if they come visit me, or visiting them at schools or other events where I can explain my role.
Thank you. Michael?
In some of the counties in Wisconsin, the branches will have specific case types. When I was an intern in Milwaukee County courts, I interned with Judge Flanagan, who was a felony drug court. That was all that she heard, was felony drug cases. And that was the entire docket. Every day was the same thing. In Winnebago County, that's not the way that we have structured our judiciary. In Winnebago County, each judge hears every kind of case. And so having that breadth of experience is really important for a judge when coming to the bench. And so I do believe that outreach is important and should be something that is increased within our community. I have been a longtime volunteer for the moot court process. In fact, I'm judging a moot court competition coming up in just a couple of days. I also am a graduate of Leadership Oshkosh, and I have come back and spoken to both the Leadership Oshkosh classes as well as the Youth Leadership Oshkosh classes about the judiciary, about the court system, and I think that those types of outreach to the community should continue and even expand.
Thank you. Lakeisha?
In addition to the courts being courts of general jurisdiction, the judges also perform weddings, there's adoptions, there's mental health commitments. Many of the cases that come before the judges are open and public hearings. I've always welcomed everyone into the courtroom. I think it's important for us to all understand the judicial process. I have spent my years here in here at Oshkosh informing the community, doing talks on knowing your rights, understanding the court system, reaching out to our youth and getting them involved as well. I believe that there has been a history of judiciary really being closed off to the community, and I don't think that that has served us well. I think that we have to still be very much involved in our community. And if anyone is to inform the community of what's going on in the walls of the courthouse, it has to be our judiciary. And I would welcome even more outreach than I myself have done, and us as the three candidates have done. I welcome that outreach. I think it's important. I think that it will help many who have an inherent mistrust of the system to understand what goes on there.
Okay, thank you very much.
All right, it's back to me. And we're going to start with you, Michael. We have a very engaged audience. This is fantastic. So we're getting questions up here, and we have two that are very, very similar. We hear every day that we have a mental health issue and issues out in our society. What is your stance on how mental health issues and the criminal justice system can intersect and deal with those mental health issues?
There has been a nationwide increase in the push for mental health courts, and I think that that's something that could be implemented with some amazing results in Winnebago County. I know that Judge Gibbs is currently in the process of looking into how a mental health treatment court type of model could be utilized in Winnebago County. My background before going to law school, my undergraduate degrees are in neuroscience and psychology. I understand some, I'm not trying to say that I know as much as those who treat on a daily basis, but I understand some of the background of the mental health processes as well as the treatment options that are available. And bringing that background and the opportunities that a new treatment court that has been shown to have extreme success in other communities, not reinventing the wheel, and to be clear, not letting people off just because they have a mental health concern. This is a way that we can help people stop the revolving door of the courthouse, that they keep coming back after getting the treatment in the court system or in the jail during their sentence. And they get back into the community and they reoffend, often because of a mental health issue or because they're trying to self-medicate with illegal drugs. And those behaviors, if we can address them through a system that will stop the revolving door, we can be better off in our community.
Thank you. Lakeisha?
Can I have the question again?
Oh, boy.
I'm sorry.
So there's a mental health issue in our communities. And where do you believe that dealing with the mental health crisis in the justice system intersects with dealing with the mental health issues?
Thank you. So as a treatment court professional, having served on a treatment court for 2 years, in that capacity, I was able to serve primarily the drug and alcohol treatment court, but also within the mental health treatment court in Outagamie County, as well as Veterans Court. Those treatment programs and alternatives are important. And they're important because instead of imprisoning or policing those with mental health, incarcerating them where they don't get the mental health treatment that they need, those programs, in fact, address the underlying concern. They address the concerns that led to the offense. And that, I think, is important so that we don't have repeat offenses, and that we are sending people, and we have people in our community that are getting the help that they need. Right now, our juveniles are especially a concern for me, and it has always been. And I've been here at a forum before talking about the need for Winnebago County to have a mental health treatment court and to address our juvenile mental health epidemic that is going on at this time. I think that we in the judiciary have to think of alternatives to treatment, alternatives to incarceration. And what we have seen, especially over the last 5 or so years, is an uptick in the number of individuals who come before us with dual diagnosis, individuals who have the mental health disorders that are going untreated, many not even diagnosed. And I think that we have an obligation and a duty to our community to address that, and it cannot be addressed simply by incarceration.
Thank you. Eric?
Thank you. Mental health has been an important part of my practice throughout my career as court commissioner. Every mental health detention starts in front of me. So for the last 2 years, I've handled hundreds of cases where someone's mental health condition becomes so severe they need to be taken out of their house and to a hospital because of the danger they pose. Unfortunately, mental health, when left untreated, leads to more and more deaths in our community, and that's something we need to expand our tools how to address. As public defender, I was the mental health practice coordinator for the agency consisting of hundreds of employees. I developed mental health law practice resources and treatment tools to help individuals with treatment. I, in my 13 years, have worked to develop several treatment courts and diversion programs, and I'm one of the members now of the mental health, creating the mental health court. It's not just an idea, it's something that I've been spending several lunch hours over the past several months meeting with Judge Gibbs, prosecutors, public defenders, law enforcement, community members, service providers to create the specific policies and procedures for a mental health court. It's not just an idea or a hope for me, it's something that I spend my time investing in and will be starting soon in the court process. So extremely important to me, not only seeing the start of mental health court, but to work for tools to address mental health in our community.
Thank you.
Okay. Well, this next question will be really easy for you, Eric. We're going to start with Lakeisha, but you've already answered part of it, I think. The Winnebago courts have developed some special programs like the drug court and safe streets and teen court. What novel ideas do you have today that you would want to bring to this role, and why would those ideas be effective in Winnebago County?
So having not only practiced in Winnebago County, but served on the bench here, one of the things I noticed during my time on the bench is the lack of cohesiveness with parties that have different cases going on within the county. For example, you could have a family court matter, but that child in the family has a juvenile matter. And then there's other things that the family may be experiencing within the judicial system. What I noticed is that currently, the way that cases are assigned through Winnebago County is through a random draw. So you can end up having families with multiple concerns within our judiciary being spread out amongst the 6 branches. Then you have competing orders, and you're leaving individuals to decide which one they can comply with, which one they can't. They're oftentimes competing and conflicting. I think that Winnebago County would benefit from having more cohesion when we have individuals from a family unit experiencing different things within the judiciary. But also that, so because I only have so much time, I'm trying to get it all in such a short amount of time. Okay, so the procedure in which we assign cases, that needs to be changed, but we also really need to look at the way that we assign cases to different branches when they're involving the same family so that there's not competing branches. I do believe that a family court, almost like a treatment court, would be beneficial. The end. Got the stop sign.
Thank you for hitting the stop sign. That was perfect timing. Eric, 90 seconds.
It's tough.
Adding more tools for a judge is important. Judges need the right tool to solve the problem and need to follow the numbers and evidence-based decision-making. What tools are the right way to solve a problem, to not only solve the problem with better results, but less resources to solve the problem. I'm involved with creating the mental health treatment court. I participate now in the court at the schools twice a month. I'm part of the SOAR. I participate with the SOAR drug diversion court, which is a complement to drug court. I've worked in other counties with veterans courts. I'd be very interested in creating that in Winnebago County as well. I think it's important for judges to have as many tools as they can and to reflect if those follow the numbers, if those tools are working the right way to address the issues in our community.
Okay, thank you. Michael?
One of the things that I think is vitally important is that even though it would be my name on the bench, it wouldn't be just me. My history of working in new and innovative ideas has led people to utilize me as a resource to come up with ideas and work together to develop ideas, and that it wouldn't just be my ideas that would be coming to action. And it's my history of working in innovative ideas that led the State Bar of Wisconsin to give me the 2022 Lifetime Innovator Award based off of my work in legal innovation. And I think that there is opportunity in the Winnebago County courts to innovate and add things like a mental health court, add opportunities for parties to not have to come back for multiple different cases for the same incident. I have many cases where the parties will come back, the same parties, for a trial in front of me on the restraining order, and then on the family court case, and then on the small claims eviction trial, that ultimately they're, the rent and damages portion of that trial. And so I end up seeing the same parties back over and over again, and having a more cohesive approach would be one option to innovate our court system.
Thanks.
Okay, and I think we're starting the last question with Eric. I think.
Yeah.
Okay, I am right on ball here. All right, so judicial candidates are sometimes described as being soft on crime or tough on crime. What does just right on crime look like to you? It's the Batman and Robin question, so.
Just right is keeping Winnebago County a safe and stable place to raise a family, which is the reason I'm running for judge. It means getting people with nonviolent offenses, with treatable substance abuse or mental health disorders back home, back with their family, back to work. It means getting people who are violent away from our community, away from committing new harm. It's following the numbers to say, how do we reduce recidivism? How do we reduce reoffense? How do we address making sure that Winnebago stays a safe and stable place to raise a family?
Thank you. Michael?
While I was in law school, I was selected by Justice Janine Geske, who served on the Wisconsin Supreme Court. She hand-selected me to be one of the founding student members of the Restorative Justice Initiative. And as part of the Restorative Justice Initiative, we talked significantly about the ripple effects of crime and how one act of crime can impact not just the direct victim, but the entire community through the ripple effects that can spread throughout the organization that is the victim of the crime, but also the community at large. And I think that recognizing those ripple effects of crime and recognizing that the direct victim is not the only victim is an important component in being just right on crime. Yes, there is a mental health crisis in our community, and we need to address that. We need to give people the services that they require in order to be healthy. We also need to punish those who commit crimes, but we also need to do it in a way that does not lead to recidivism and continued commission of crimes over and over again. And so I would utilize my history and experience from my work in restorative justice and other components to continue to make Winnebago County a great place to live and work.
Thank you, Michael. Lakeisha.
Just right on crime would be handing down a sentence that takes into consideration all of the factors that a judge must take into consideration. And that is the need to protect the community, the need for rehabilitation, and the need to address the offense. Nothing more than that. And I think what we have seen in our history is over-sentencing, harsh sentencing. And yes, we have also seen some that have been appalling to us and that they were too late for us to fathom. However, when it's just right, it effectuates all of the goals that the judge has set out and that's required for them to take into consideration. And that is the only way it will be right.
Thank you.
Okay. Now you may each have a minute for, oh, we have one. This came from one of the audience members. Oh, I can't. Okay. You may each have 1 minute for an additional statement. Since we started with Lakeisha last time and went this way, we're going to start with Michael and go this way. So go ahead, Michael.
I believe that the importance of the neutrality of the judiciary is of the utmost importance. And I am the only candidate for this role who has more than a dozen years of being a professional neutral and will apply the law neutrally and will without bias. Neutrality does not mean that I don't care. And I think that's an important component to understanding who I am. And why do I say that? I have been the president of the Oshkosh Area United Way Board. I was the president of the Oshkosh Rotary Club. I am constantly working to make this community a better place to live and work. I serve on the core team of the Oshkosh Civility Project. I will also bring with me my history of professional ethics and my role as being an appointed member of the board for the Office of Lawyer Regulation that oversees and prosecutes lawyers in the state of Wisconsin who commit ethics infractions. Thank you.
Thank you, Eric.
Thank you. My qualifications to be judge come from the experience I gained from my choice to always work in public service for our community. My decisions from the bench would come from that same commitment. I'm endorsed by judges, prosecutors, attorneys from different backgrounds, members of our community. I'm involved and invested in our court and our community. I'd be honored to have your vote on February 20th and April 2nd to be your next judge for Winnebago County, Branch 1.
Thanks, Lakeisha.
Thank you. I'm asking voters to look at this race the same way that I have. When I chose to run, what I did is look at our current judiciary and analyze what gaps I would be able to fill. And that's huge for me because I believe in the diversity of the judiciary. Right now, the exit of Judge Basilier would leave an all-male judiciary. And as we know, diversity is important for innovation. It's important for thought. It's important for experience. I have not walked the same path as anyone else on this bench, but I come with a plethora of experience, not only within my career, but my life experience. And so I'm asking the voters to pay attention to my qualifications. I have served as a judge. I'm the candidate who, upon being voted in, can hit the ground running. I know the rules of court procedure, I know the rules of evidence, and I have the practice experience. And I would be filling the gap that is left by Judge Basilier exiting the bench.
Thank you. And actually, I want to thank all three of you very much for participating tonight. We really appreciate it. It was fantastic how you hit the 90-second mark so perfectly every time. I'm really proud of you. Clearly ready for prime time.
We're rule followers. We all follow rules.
Rule followers, of course. The League of Women Voters does not do endorsements, as I'm sure you're aware. It's because we're nonpartisan, and that's one of our rules. However, this is not an endorsement for any individual, but tonight we did have this come from the audience. Each of these candidates are great. You can't go wrong with any of them. And this came from a very experienced lawyer, so I think that's fantastic.
Thank you.
So with that, we will conclude the primary forum. Remember, on Tuesday, February 20th, you may vote for one of these judicial candidates, Michael Rust, Eric Haywood, or Lakeisha Hayes. The polls are open from 7 a.m. to 8 p.m. Everyone must show a voter ID, a photo voter ID. You may register when you go to vote on Election Day if you take a proof of residence with you. Go to myvote.wi.gov to find information on registration, ballot, acceptable photo IDs, and polling places. Go to vote411.org to learn more about the candidates. You may also consider voting early or absentee by contacting your city or county clerk. Because it's countywide, I can't tell you all the different places, but you can find that out. So, on behalf of the League of Women Voters, I want to thank not only our candidates, but my fellow panelist, Karen. Thank you so much. We very much appreciate her coming. She's not even a League member, and she comes and does this for us. So, I think this is awesome. And remember that our democracy depends on citizen involvement. So, primaries are also important to elections. Get out and vote on the 20th. Thank you.